Park Tae-ho's hands trembled as he touched the scattered papers on his daughter's desk. The evening breeze drifted through the open window, making the curtains dance in an eerie rhythm. Just 30 minutes ago, he had brought Hae-Newell her favorite honey tea while she studied for her biology test. Now, the tea sat untouched, still warm, next to her neat handwriting. The silence in the room felt wrong. Hae-Newell was never quiet. She would hum while solving problems, tap her pencil against the desk, or ask questions about things that made Tae-ho smile. As he moved closer to the window, his military training kicked in. 20 years in special forces had taught him to notice the smallest details. The blue powder on the windowsill made his heart stop. It glowed faintly in the growing darkness, a signature he had seen only once before in a classified briefing. The Mayorari, the aliens who had been watching Earth for decades, thinking humans wouldn't notice their presence. Tae-ho picked up Hae-Newell's favorite pencil, the one with small stars painted on it. She never went anywhere without it. His mind flashed back to the day they bought it, 3 years ago on her birthday. She had pointed at it through the store window, her eyes lighting up just like her mother's used to. Since losing his wife to illness 5 years ago, Hae-Newell had become his whole world. He had shifted from active duty to a desk job just to be there for her. Every morning, he made her breakfast, always adding a small note in her lunchbox. Every evening, they would talk about their day over dinner. Now the thought of her alone, scared, surrounded by beings who saw humans as lesser creatures, made his blood boil. Moving quickly, Tae-ho checked the security cameras he had installed around the house. The footage showed nothing, just static at the exact moment Hae-Newell would have been taken. Their technology was advanced enough to disable Earth's security systems, but they had made a mistake in their planning. In his study, behind a painting of the Seoul skyline, Tae-ho opened his safe. Inside lay a small device, similar to a compass but with strange markings, a piece of alien technology he had been given clearance to study. The needle spun wildly before pointing straight up. They were still in Earth's orbit. Tae-ho's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "We know what happened. Meet at the old factory. Bring the tracker." The message deleted itself after 5 seconds. He recognized the pattern. It was from his old unit, the ones who handled the unusual cases, the ones that never made it to official reports. As he packed a small bag with essentials, Tae-ho's training kicked in. He moved with purpose, checking his equipment with practiced efficiency. The weight of his service pistol felt familiar against his side, though he knew it would be useless against Mayorari technology. But old habits die hard. In Hae-Newell's room, he picked up the family photo from her bedside table. It showed the 3 of them at the beach, Hae-Newell building a sandcastle while he and his wife watched. He tucked the photo into his jacket pocket, close to his heart. The streets of Seoul were busy with evening traffic as Tae-ho drove toward the meeting point. The city lights flickered against the darkening sky, and somewhere up there, his daughter was probably looking down at these same lights, wondering if her father would find her. The old factory stood at the edge of the industrial district, its broken windows like empty eyes staring into the night. As Tae-ho approached, he noticed fresh tire tracks in the dust. Someone had been here recently. His hand moved to his weapon as he entered through a side door, scanning the shadows. "They took 6 others tonight," a voice spoke from the darkness. Kim Min-soo, his former commanding officer, stepped into the dim light. "All teenagers, all gifted students. They're getting bolder." Tae-ho's jaw tightened. Why Hae-Newell? Why now? Min-soo pulled out a tablet, showing a map with glowing dots scattered across it. "The Mayorari aren't just collectors, Tae-ho. They're farmers. They harvest potential. Your daughter's test scores, her problem-solving abilities. They've been watching her, watching all of them." The reality of the situation hit Tae-ho like a physical blow. This wasn't a random abduction. They had targeted Hae-Newell specifically, had probably been monitoring her for months. The thought of alien eyes watching his daughter made his skin crawl. "We have a plan," Min-soo continued. But it's risky. We've located their processing station. It's beyond the moon, hidden in Earth's blind spot. We have a ship, modified from their own technology. But we need someone who can operate it. Someone with combat experience and a personal stake in the mission. Tai-Ho looked at the photo in his pocket, at Hae-Newell's smiling face. When do we start? The night grew deeper as they discussed the details. Somewhere above them, the stars twinkled innocently, hiding the dark truth of what lurked beyond. But Tai-Ho made a silent promise to the night sky. He would bring his daughter home, and the Mayorari would learn that they had made a terrible mistake in underestimating a father's love. The old subway tunnels beneath Seoul held many secrets, but none quite like this. Tai-Ho followed Min-Soo through a maze of abandoned maintenance corridors, their footsteps echoing off water-stained walls. The air grew thicker as they descended, carrying the scent of old metal and damp concrete. After 20 minutes of walking, they reached what looked like a dead end. Min-Soo placed his hand on a rusty electrical panel, and a hidden scanner read his palm print. The wall slid aside with a soft hiss, revealing a state-of-the-art facility that seemed completely out of place in these forgotten tunnels. Screens lined the walls, displaying data streams and satellite imagery. People in civilian clothes moved between workstations with purpose, speaking in hushed tones. In the center of the room, a large holographic display showed Earth, surrounded by dozens of blinking red dots. "Welcome to the Watchers," a calm voice said. Song Ji-woo stood before them, her silver-streaked hair pulled back in a neat bun. Her eyes carried the weight of someone who had seen too much, but her posture remained straight and alert. "We've been expecting you, Tai-Ho." Ji-woo led them to a private room where three-dimensional maps floated in the air. Each red dot represents a confirmed Mayorari activity, she explained, manipulating the display with practiced gestures. The blue ones are suspected facilities. The green markers show where they've taken people. There were hundreds of green markers. "How long has this been happening?" Tai-Ho asked, his voice tight with anger. "We first noticed the pattern 30 years ago," Ji-woo replied, bringing up a timeline. "At first, it was just 1 or 2 people every few months, usually gifted children from remote areas, places where disappearances could be explained away. The timeline expanded, showing an increasing frequency of abductions. 5 years ago, they changed their strategy. They started taking people from cities, but they were smart about it. They chose people without strong family connections or those whose disappearances wouldn't raise alarms." Tai-Ho watched as new data points appeared, forming a pattern he hadn't noticed before. "They're testing us," he said quietly, "seeing how much they can take before we notice." Ji-woo nodded, but they made a mistake with Hae-Newell. They didn't realize her father had clearance to recognize their technology. They didn't know about the tracker you had. On another screen, data scrolled past. Profiles of the missing. Scientists, artists, musicians, young prodigies. "They're collecting the best of us," Min-Soo added. "But for what?" Ji-woo brought up a new image, a complex structure floating in space. "This is their processing station. We've managed to piece together its location from various data sources. They take their captives there first, before moving them to other facilities." The station rotated slowly in the hologram, revealing its massive scale. "We've been gathering intelligence, trying to find a way in. But their security is unlike anything we've seen. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours." Tai-Ho studied the station's layout, his military training kicking in. "There's always a weak point. Everything has one." "That's why we need you," Ji-woo said, pulling up another file. "You're not just a soldier, Tai-Ho. You specialized in impossible extractions. And now you have something none of our other operatives had, a personal connection. The Mayorari won't expect a rescue attempt. They think we're too primitive to even reach their station." The room fell silent as Ji-woo brought up one final image, a small spacecraft, clearly of alien design but modified with human technology. "We've been adapting their own tools to use against them." This ship can get you there, but you'll need training. The neural interface is challenging. Tai-ho looked at the ship, then at the station where his daughter was being held. How long will the training take? A week, if you're capable. Most people need months, but we don't have months. Ji-woo's expression softened slightly. The Mayurari usually move their captives to permanent facilities after 10 days. We have 6 days left to reach Haenyul. Then we start now, Tai-ho said firmly. He pulled out the family photo from his pocket, looking at Haenyul's smiling face. Show me everything you know about their systems, their patterns, their weaknesses. I'll learn whatever I need to. Ji-woo nodded, understanding in her eyes. We'll begin with their basic protocols. But remember, Tai-ho, this isn't just about saving Haenyul anymore. If we can prove humans are capable of reaching their station, of breaking their security, it changes everything. It forces them to recognize us as equals. The underground facility hummed with energy as screens lit up with training programs. Above them, somewhere beyond Earth's atmosphere, Haenyul and countless others waited in alien captivity. But for the first time since her abduction, Tai-ho felt a spark of hope. The Mayurari might have advanced technology and centuries of experience, but they had never faced a father fighting for his child. As Ji-woo began explaining the neural interface controls, Tai-ho made a silent promise to his daughter. 6 days. He would master their technology in 6 days, or die trying. The Mayurari were about to learn that they had taken far more than a simple human child. They had taken the daughter of a man who would reshape their understanding of human capability. Sweat dripped from Tai-ho's forehead as he focused on the glowing control panel before him. The alien symbols pulsed with a soft blue light responding to his thoughts. Lee Do-young watched from behind a safety screen, taking notes as Tai-ho guided the simulation through a complex series of maneuvers. Remarkable, Do-young muttered, adjusting his glasses. You're learning the neural patterns faster than anyone we've tested. Most people can't even get past the basic interface without severe headaches. The simulation ended, and Tai-ho removed the neural link from his temple. His hands shook slightly, not from exhaustion, but from the strange sensation of having his mind connected to alien technology. How much longer until I can pilot the real ship? Do-young checked his data tablet. At this rate, maybe 3 more days. You've already mastered navigation and basic defensive systems. That's extraordinary progress for just 5 days of training. In the corner of the underground facility, their salvaged Mayurari vessel waited. It looked like a dark teardrop, its surface seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. The ship had been pieced together from recovered technology, modified to accept human pilots. The biomural interface was designed for Mayurari minds, Do-young explained, pulling up diagnostic screens. They believe their neural patterns are superior to ours. But your military training, combined with your emotional drive to find Haenyul, is creating adaptation patterns we've never seen before. Tai-ho walked to the ship, placing his hand on its cool surface. The metal seemed to pulse under his touch, like a living thing. Tell me more about their technology. The more I understand, the better chance I have of finding her. Do-young brought up a holographic display of the ship's systems. The Mayurari use thought patterns to control everything. Their ships are semi-organic, capable of responding to the pilot's intentions. But here's what's fascinating. They never considered that human minds might be more flexible, more adaptable than theirs. The physicist pointed to various parts of the ship's anatomy. We've modified the neural interface to work with human thought patterns. It's crude compared to their technology, but it has one advantage. They won't be able to detect it. Their security systems are designed to spot their own technology, not our hybrid version. Hours passed as they worked through more simulations. Tai-ho learned to navigate through asteroid fields, evade detection systems, and operate the ship's cloaking technology. Each success brought him closer to his daughter, but also revealed the enormous challenge ahead. The hardest part will be approaching their station, Do-young said, showing him sensor data. Their detection grid is incredibly sophisticated. One wrong thought while piloting, one moment of emotional instability, and the ship's neural signature will alert them. Taiho closed his eyes, centering himself as he had been taught in Special Forces training. How do I maintain control when I see where they're keeping my daughter? Do Young's expression softened. That's why we're pushing you so hard in training. You need to be able to compartmentalize. Keep your mission focus separate from your emotional core. The ship will respond to both, and that could be dangerous. They moved to the physical training area, where Taiho practiced emergency procedures. The ship's interior was cramped, designed for efficiency rather than comfort. Every system had backups, and every backup had emergency overrides. Remember, Du Young stressed, if something goes wrong, if you're discovered, the neural interface becomes your last resort. You can overload it, create a feedback pulse that will disrupt their systems, but it could also cause permanent neural damage to you. Taiho nodded grimly. If it means getting Haenul out, I'll take that risk. As night fell in the world above, they continued working. Du Young was impressed by Taiho's determination, his ability to push through exhaustion and pain. The neural interface left him with splitting headaches, but he never complained, never asked for breaks. One more thing, Du Young said as they prepared to end another training session. The Mayorari ships respond to emotional states. Your love for Haenul, your determination to find her. Those feelings make you stronger, make your connection to the ship stronger. But anger, fear, those emotions can disrupt the neural pattern. You'll need perfect control. Taiho looked at the family photo he kept with him during training. I understand. When can we begin real flight tests? Tomorrow, Du Young replied. But remember, you'll only have one chance at this. The moment you approach their station, you'll need to be perfect. No hesitation, no emotional spikes, just pure focus. As Taiho prepared to leave for his few hours of rest, Du Young called after him. You're proving them wrong, you know. Every time you master another system, every time you adapt to their technology, you're showing that humans are far more capable than they believe. When you reach that station, you won't just be rescuing Haenul. You'll be changing how they see our entire species. Taiho paused at the door, his voice quiet but determined. I don't care about proving anything to them. I just want my daughter back. But as he walked through the quiet tunnels to his sleeping quarters, he knew Du Young was right. The Mayorari had underestimated humanity. They had underestimated a father's love. And soon, they would learn just how costly that mistake would be. The vastness of space stretched before Taiho as he guided his ship toward the dark side of the moon. Earth hung behind him like a blue jewel, growing smaller with each passing moment. The modified Mayorari vessel responded to his thoughts smoothly now, after countless hours of practice. His neural interface hummed quietly as he approached the coordinates Jiwoo had provided. At first, he saw nothing but stars. Then, as he adjusted the ship's sensors, a massive structure shimmered into view. The Mayorari processing station floated in the void, its surface absorbing starlight rather than reflecting it. Taiho's heart rate increased, but he forced himself to remain calm. The ship would react to his emotions, and any spike in its energy signature would alert the station's security systems. He recited the breathing exercises Du Young had taught him, keeping his mind focused solely on the approach vector. The station's security grid appeared on his neural display as a web of invisible lines. One wrong move would trigger alarms. Taiho guided his ship through the gaps, moving so slowly that the journey felt like hours. His small vessel slipped between detection beams like a shadow passing through darkness. As he drew closer, he could see the true scale of the station. It was enormous, easily large enough to hold several thousand people. The thought of how many humans might be trapped inside made his chest tighten, but he pushed the emotion down. Focus, control, precision. The maintenance dock appeared exactly where the Resistance's intelligence had indicated. Taiho transmitted the stolen access codes, holding his breath as he waited for a response. 3 seconds passed. 5. Then a small hatch silently opened, just large enough for his ship to enter. The docking procedure was automatic, his vessel settling into a cradle designed for Mirari maintenance craft. Tai-Ho powered down all systems except for life support, letting the ship go completely dark. He waited, counting heartbeats, listening for any sign that his arrival had been detected. Nothing but silence. Following the memorized station layout, Tai-Ho made his way to the service corridors. The passages were designed for the station's automated maintenance systems, barely tall enough for him to stand upright. The artificial gravity felt slightly stronger than Earth's, making his movements awkward. His neural interface allowed him to access the station's basic systems. Security cameras showed him empty corridors ahead, and he moved quickly between blind spots. The Mirari were so confident in their outer defenses that internal security was minimal. The first holding area he found almost made him break his emotional control. Dozens of humans, mostly teenagers, sat in small cells separated by energy fields. They wore simple gray uniforms, their faces showing a mixture of fear and resignation. But Haenul wasn't among them. Tai-Ho documented everything with a small recorder built into his suit. The Resistance needed to know the full extent of the Mirari operation. He noted the systematic way the cells were organized, how the captives were sorted by what appeared to be their abilities and skills. Moving deeper into the station, he began to understand the Mirari's process. Each section held different groups. Some areas contained artists and musicians, others had young scientists and mathematicians. The aliens were categorizing human potential like collectors sorting precious stones. A display panel caught his attention. It showed transport schedules to various Mirari colonies. They were planning to move this group within days. Time was running out. As he rounded a corner, he finally saw his first Mirari. The alien was tall and slender, its skin shifting colors like oil on water. It moved with a fluid grace that made it seem almost weightless. Tai-Ho pressed himself into a maintenance alcove, hardly daring to breathe. The Mirari passed without noticing him, confirming what Ji Woo had said about their overconfidence. They never expected anyone to reach their station, so they didn't bother looking for intruders. Tai-Ho accessed another security panel, searching through cell assignments. His hands trembled slightly as he scrolled through the data. Then he saw it. Haenul's name, listed in a section marked Advanced Problem Solving. The route to her section would take him through more populated areas of the station. He would need to time his movements perfectly between patrol cycles. One mistake, one moment of bad timing, and everything would be lost. But as he prepared to move, something else in the data caught his eye. The Mirari weren't just collecting humans. They were studying them. Notes attached to each prisoner detailed not just their abilities, but their responses to tests, their adaptability, their potential for what the aliens called neural advancement. They were looking for something specific in human minds, some quality they had discovered but didn't fully understand. And based on the notes, they were becoming increasingly excited about their findings. Tai-Ho stored this information for the Resistance to analyze later. Right now, his only concern was reaching Haenul. He checked the patrol schedule one final time, took a deep breath, and began moving toward her section. Each step brought him closer to his daughter, but also deeper into danger. The processing station continued its silent orbit beyond the moon, its precious cargo of human potential waiting to be claimed by their alien captors. But among them moved a shadow, a father whose love had carried him across the void of space, and the Mirari's certainty in their superiority was about to be severely tested. The moment Haenul saw her father's face through the energy barrier, she felt a surge of hope she had been holding back for weeks. She kept her expression neutral, just as she had trained herself to do. Around her, 30 other teenagers continued their assigned tasks, but she knew they had noticed. They were always watching, always learning. Haenul's fingers moved steadily over the alien control panel, solving the complex equations the Mirari used to test their cognitive abilities. While her captors saw only a compliant prisoner completing her tasks, her mind was racing through the plan she had carefully crafted. During their captivity, Hay Newell had discovered something the Maiorari never expected. Their test systems were teaching the humans more than they realized. Every puzzle, every problem, revealed more about how their technology worked. The aliens thought they were measuring human potential, but they were actually giving their prisoners the keys to their own prison. Ming, she whispered to the girl next to her, "Signal the others." Pattern 3. Ming's fingers never stopped moving on her own panel, but her slight nod showed she understood. The message would spread through their secret network, tap patterns in the walls, blinking signals during mealtimes, Morse code tapped out during sleep cycles. The Maiorari guard floated past their workstations, its color-shifting skin displaying patterns of satisfaction. These humans were performing well, exceeding expectations. The guard never noticed how Hay Newell's eyes tracked its movements, counting the seconds between its patrol rounds. In the cell block's shared rest area, other teenagers worked on different tasks. Some studied alien language patterns, others solved engineering problems. The Maiorari thought they were merely testing human learning capacity. They didn't realize their prisoners were building a comprehensive understanding of station operations. Newell had spent weeks mapping the power fluctuations in the force fields. She noticed they weakened slightly during shift changes when the station's systems realigned. The Maiorari never noticed because the change was too small for their sensors. But human senses, more adaptable than their captors believed, could detect the subtle difference. Through the barrier, she saw her father slip into a maintenance tunnel. Their eyes met briefly, and she gave him the smallest nod. Everything was ready. The other prisoners were in position, waiting for her signal. The station's daily cycle was approaching its rest period. Soon, the main lights would dim, and the guard shifts would change. Hay Newell completed another set of equations, her perfect score making the system chime with approval. The Maiorari guard's skin rippled with pleasure at her progress. "Remember," she whispered to those nearest her, "when the lights dim, count to 30. The force fields will flicker for exactly 2 seconds. Move fast, stay quiet, and head for the maintenance access points we mapped." Years of practicing piano had given Hay Newell perfect timing. As the lights began to fade, she counted silently. Around her, dozens of others did the same. The Maiorari guard moved toward the exit, confident its charges would sleep as usual. At exactly 30 seconds, the force fields wavered. The teenagers moved as one, slipping through the weakened barriers with practiced precision. Hay Newell led her group toward the maintenance tunnel where she had seen her father. Others moved to their assigned positions, ready to access control panels they had studied for weeks. The Maiorari never understood why humans told stories about prison breaks, about resistance, about hope against impossible odds. They had never grasped that by testing human problem-solving abilities, they were teaching their captives exactly how to defeat them. Newell reached the maintenance tunnel just as the first alarm sounded. Her father was waiting, his eyes wide with pride and surprise at the coordination of the escape. She quickly explained how they had prepared, how they had learned the station's systems while appearing to be compliant test subjects. "They thought they were studying us," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos beginning to spread through the station. "But we were studying them. Every test, every puzzle, showed us more about how their technology works. They never realized the human creativity could turn their own tests against them." The station's corridors filled with confused Maiorari guards as hundreds of teenagers accessed control panels simultaneously. The aliens had never considered that their prisoners would work together so effectively, would share knowledge so completely. Newell and her father worked quickly, using their combined knowledge, his military experience and her understanding of the station's systems, to coordinate the uprising. The other prisoners followed their assigned roles perfectly, just as they had practiced in their minds during long nights of captivity. The Maiorari had created the perfect conditions for their own defeat. They had gathered the brightest young minds from Earth, given them the tools to understand advanced technology, and assumed their prisoners were too primitive to use that knowledge effectively. As alarms blared and systems began to fail across the station, Haynul allowed herself a small smile. The aliens had wanted to study human potential. Now they were about to experience it firsthand. The uprising had begun, and the Mayurari were about to learn that underestimating humanity was the greatest mistake they could have made. Through the chaos of flashing alarms and panicked alien voices, Tahoe worked quickly at the main control terminal. His neural interface connected smoothly with the Mayurari systems, allowing him to access their secure databases. What he found made his hands pause over the controls. Screen after screen of data revealed the true purpose behind the abductions. The Mayurari hadn't just been collecting humans, they had been studying Earth itself. They called it the Paradox World, a planet that should not have produced such rapid cognitive development. Taiho's eyes widened as he read through their research notes. The aliens had been watching Earth for centuries, puzzled by how quickly humans advanced. While other species took thousands of years to develop new technologies, humans did it in decades. What took others multiple generations to learn, humans could grasp in a single lifetime. "Father," Haynul called from the doorway, where she was helping coordinate the movement of freed prisoners. "The others have secured the lower levels, but the Mayurari are regrouping in the command center." Taiho waved her over, showing her the displays. "Look at this. They've been testing all of you, measuring how quickly you learn and adapt. They can't understand how it's possible." Haynul scanned the data, her quick mind processing the information. That's why they kept giving us harder and harder problems to solve. They were trying to find our limits. More information scrolled across the screen. The Mayurari had documented thousands of cases where humans had solved problems in ways they never anticipated. Where their own species would follow established patterns, humans would create entirely new approaches. "They think there's something wrong with us," Haynul said, reading further. "They believe we're some kind of evolutionary mistake, that we developed too fast, learned too quickly." Taiho accessed another section of the database. "Look here. They've been comparing human neural patterns to other species they've encountered. Our brains form new connections faster than any species they've studied. We adapt to new situations in ways they can't predict." The station shook as somewhere, systems overloaded. The freed prisoners were using their knowledge of the station's technology exactly as Haynul had taught them. The Mayurari never expected their test subjects to turn their own technology against them so effectively. That's why they kept us separated by skills, Haynul realized. They were afraid of what would happen if we worked together, shared what we learned. They knew we could understand their technology, but they didn't think we could organize ourselves to use it. Taiho found records of Mayurari scientists arguing about the human captives. Some wanted to study humans more carefully, warning that they were underestimating human capabilities. Others dismissed these concerns, insisting that no primitive species could possibly threaten their superior civilization. Through the station's security feeds, they watched as groups of teenagers efficiently disabled system after system. Each group applied what they had learned during their captivity, using the Mayurari's own tests against them. "We need to get this information to Earth," Taiho said, quickly copying the database to his neural interface. "The world needs to know what they've been doing, and why." Haynul pointed to another screen, showing Mayurari ships approaching the station. "They're calling for reinforcements. They still think they can control this situation. They don't understand that their biggest mistake wasn't taking us. It was teaching us." The database contained one final revelation that made Taiho pause. The Mayurari had detected signs that human neural adaptation was still accelerating. Each new generation was learning faster, adapting more quickly, solving problems more creatively than the last. "They're afraid of us," he realized. "Not of what we are now, but of what we're becoming. That's why they wanted to divide us, send us to different colonies. They're trying to control our development." Another alarm sounded. The station's main power core was beginning to overload. The freed prisoners had learned more about Mayarari technology than their captors ever suspected possible. They weren't just escaping, they were dismantling the entire operation. "We need to move," Newell said, her voice firm with newfound confidence. "The others are waiting for our signal to begin the final phase." As they left the control room, Taiho took one last look at the Mayarari data. The aliens had spent centuries studying humanity, trying to understand how such a young species could advance so quickly. In their arrogance, they had dismissed the very qualities that made humans unique: creativity, adaptability, and the ability to work together in ways their rigid society could never match. The station's lights flickered as more systems failed. Throughout the corridors, hundreds of Earth's brightest young minds were proving just how wrong the Mayarari had been. They weren't just escaping. They were showing the aliens exactly why humanity's rapid development was no mistake at all. In their effort to study human potential, the Mayarari had created the perfect conditions for humanity to demonstrate exactly what that potential meant. And now, as their carefully controlled experiment spun out of their control, they were about to learn just how dangerous it was to underestimate a species that thrived on overcoming impossible odds. The main bridge of the Mayarari station glowed with emergency lights as Newell and Taiho led their group through the final security door. Alarms blared in alien harmonies, a sound that had once filled the captives with fear, but now signaled their victory. The freed prisoners moved with purpose, each person knowing their role in the plan they had carefully crafted. The Mayarari commander stood at the center of the bridge, its color-shifting skin displaying patterns of confusion and anger. Around it, other aliens moved frantically between control stations, trying to regain control of their failing systems. They had never faced a situation like this. Their prisoners weren't just escaping, they were taking over the entire station. "You cannot comprehend what you are doing," the commander's translator spoke in flat tones. "This facility is beyond your primitive understanding." Newell stepped forward, her voice steady. "We understand perfectly. We learned your language, your technology, your systems. While you were studying us, we were studying you." Taiho watched with pride as his daughter accessed the main control console, her fingers moving confidently across the alien interface. On screens around the bridge, security systems shut down one by one. The Mayarari watched in disbelief as mere test subjects operated their advanced technology with expert precision. "Station power core at critical levels," an automated voice announced. "Emergency protocols engage." The commander's skin rippled with patterns of distress. "You would destroy this station. Destroy yourselves." "No," Taiho replied, moving to stand beside his daughter. "We're giving you a choice. The power core will stabilize if you agree to our terms. Otherwise, this station's systems will continue to fail." Throughout the station, hundreds of freed captives held their positions. Young scientists controlled engineering systems. Artists and musicians used their understanding of patterns to decode security protocols. Mathematicians calculated power distribution to maintain critical systems at exactly the right levels to prevent either a shutdown or an overload. The Mayarari commander watched as its carefully controlled facility slipped further from its grasp. These humans weren't acting like test subjects anymore. They were operating with a level of coordination and skill that should have been impossible for their species. "Your terms?" the commander finally asked. Newell brought up the station's database on the main screen, showing the Mayarari's own research. "First, you acknowledge Earth as an equal partner in the galactic community. Second, you return every human you've taken. Third, you share your technology openly with Earth instead of hoarding it." The commander's color patterns shifted rapidly as it considered these demands. Through the bridge windows, more Mayarari ships appeared, responding to the station's distress calls. But they couldn't act. Any attempt to forcefully retake the station would risk destroying it. "How did you achieve this?" the commander asked, its translator struggling to convey its mix of emotions. "Our tests showed high potential, but this level of adaptation should not be possible." Taiho smiled at his daughter. You tested individuals. You never understood that humanity's true strength comes from working together. Every person here shared what they learned, adapted your tests into tools, turned your experiments into weapons. More alarms sounded as another system reached critical levels. The freed prisoners worked in perfect synchronization, keeping the station balanced on the edge of catastrophic failure. They had learned this delicate control from months of studying Maiorari technology, while pretending to be simple test subjects. The commander's skin finally settled into a pattern that the humans had learned to recognize as acceptance. We underestimated your species. This facility contains research too valuable to lose. We accept your terms. Throughout the station, cheers erupted as the message spread. Hundreds of young humans who had been taken from their families could finally return home, but they would return changed. Not broken by captivity, but strengthened by what they had learned. As emergency systems powered down and regular control was restored, Hainul hugged her father tightly. "I knew you would come," she whispered. "I never doubted you," Taiho replied, amazed at how his daughter had grown stronger through her ordeal. "You led an uprising against an advanced alien civilization. I think you might be grounded for that." Hainul laughed, a sound that filled the alien bridge with very human joy. Around them, other families were being reunited as rescue ships approached the station. Earth was about to learn it wasn't alone in the universe, and humanity would face this new future with the knowledge that they were far more capable than anyone, human or alien, had imagined. The Maiorari had wanted to study human potential. Instead, they had become the first alien civilization to learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their test scores or problem-solving abilities. It was in their capacity to join together, to share knowledge, to turn adversity into opportunity, and to fight not just for themselves but for each other. As father and daughter prepared to return home, they knew their adventure among the stars had changed not just their lives, but the future of human civilization. The Maiorari had tried to understand humanity through tests and experiments. In the end, they learned their lesson through something much simpler: the unshakable bond between a father and daughter, and the incredible things humans could achieve when they refused to be limited by anyone's expectations.